how do you think there's a difference between employees who are designers versus agencies and freelancers who are designers?
Right. Designers have a very big advantage, which most people don't.
If you don't have time to build a portfolio, don't build it.
I respect that, but I disagree with it.
Do you think freelancers have the luxury to say that they don't have a portfolio as compared to employees?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They have no choice.
No, you should hire me.
Correct.
You should keep your personal subjective opinions about my designs aside and look at it objectively as to how my designs have impacted or whatever.
Right. I should understand the customer well and I should explain that when I'm talking to that person, saying, oh, isko mere category or customer bhi pata hai. Like, that's very important for anybody to know.
How do we convince these clients or stakeholders to think a little differently?
I also tell people to write down a business plan which includes your numbers, metrics and everything. Foreign clients are in a more established place. It's more organized there. India mein kar sakte ho, sorry, give me one more chance. So I think Indians are more accepting for you to make mistakes. Pricing is a spectrum. It's like saying how much does a car cost? A car can cost anything, dude. 1 lakh, 10 crores also can cost. This is the fact, right? Like the fact of life is nobody or not a single entity can just screw you over, dude. Yeah. Ever.
Writing content for healthcare is a different effort as compared to writing content for tech.
100%.
And both are content writing.
Yeah.
How can I fix a price for both?
A lot of young designers are doing this.
Hey everyone, in this episode, I sit down with Kavan Antani, the dynamic founder of IndieFolio and a Forbes 30 under 30 honoree. Kavan's journey is nothing short of inspiring, from diving into design and animation in the 8th grade to founding IndieFolio at just 17. He's been breaking barriers and reshaping the creative industry. We explore how his frustrations with the perception of freelancing drove him to build IndieFolio, the platform revolutionizing the traditional agency model, leveraging the talents of thousands of independent creatives and studios to offer speed, variety, and scalability. Kavan shares his belief in the future of independent professionals, especially post-COVID, and how IndieFolio has facilitated millions in earnings for the freelancers, partnering with over 350 companies. We also discuss the opportunities independent freelancers and design agencies have in an ever-growing design industry in India and across the globe. Whether you are a freelancer, a designer, or a just curious person about the future of creative work, this episode is packed with valuable insights. Don't miss it. Hi Kavan, welcome to Design Talks with Hemant. It's a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for taking your time out in the middle of your travel and meetings and making it here for the recording. Firstly, Mr. Featured on Forbes. How do you feel about that?
Oh, it feels great, to be honest. It was unexpected because it takes a long time, these applications.
Yeah.
So it just came out of the blue.
Okay.
So that was surprising and that was exciting. And then I think all the love I got from my parents and my relatives, firstly. The phone wasn't stopping to ring. And then my friends and everybody else was pretty fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most exciting part. I guess when it comes to getting validated, that also maybe feels good.
Yes.
A lot of people used to think, what does Kavan do, and I think they're like, we still don't know, but he's doing something nice, it seems. So I think that feels good, yeah.
Okay. Nice. So for people who probably might not be aware, why were you featured on Forbes?
Oh, you should ask them that. But I think they usually like to pick people who are under 30.
Right.
It's called a 30 and a 30 list, who are doing something transformative with a particular industry or a function. And at IndieFolio, we're really trying to change, let's say, creative production for brands.
Yeah.
So perhaps that may be the reason, yeah.
Right. Well, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
We'll talk a little bit about IndieFolio now that you mentioned it. So can you briefly define what is IndieFolio? Why did you start IndieFolio? And how did you start it?
Sure. So IndieFolio is like a collective of consultants, studios and agencies in the creative realm. Design, video, content, animation, etc. we essentially represent these folks and enable them to work with large brands. So we call ourselves like a distributed agency, where instead of a brand relying on the in-house team of an agency, they can rely on like thousands of people. So you can get a lot of scale, a lot of pace, a lot of agility and nimbleness.
And they're all vetted.
They're all vetted, of course. Yeah. So we don't have a model like a Fiverr or Upwork,
right?
Where you can sign up yourself and you can start getting jobs. We have a pretty elaborate process to pick people, get them on the platform. We only look at senior folks or studios which have some, credible work in their portfolio before we get them on board.
Right.
And we also are a community. So the story is that this is my 10th year. I launched IndieFolio when I was in my 12th grade. And the initial idea was to make it into a community of creative people. We still do that. We still do events. We used to do a lot of events before. Now we do it sporadically.
Yeah.
But the idea is to teach a lot of young people, upcoming designers and creative people, how to make it in the industry.
Right.
So we also have a community as well. Yeah.
Right. I've attended one of your community meetups. And
yeah. Oh yeah. I think we do the Sync sessions, the small one with Adhira. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Why did you start IndieFolio?
I don't really know why I started it, because I was like 17. I just want to do something.
Now that you look at it, what purpose do you think you solved by starting?
I think I really wanted to do something of my own, since the longest time. I got the taste of it when I was in the head council in my school. Right. And me and a few people in the head council launched a school festival for the first time, which is still going on. It's been like 10-12 years now. Then I was in college, part of a lot of clubs. I met my co-founder there, and we did a lot of projects there. And it was very exciting for me to always think of a strategy, get people together, get them to do something, and see how the audience reacts. So that was very exciting. So maybe it was probably something around that. I remember I have a very good friend. Me and him used to keep on like hashing out ideas from the 10th grade. And then I finally got something called IndieFolio, and we set it off that as like the community platform. So I hope I had a very elaborate answer or a vision while starting, but it wasn't the case. I think I developed that vision the more mature I got as an entrepreneur in my last 10 years.
Right. I think it's important to know that side of the story as well, because everything is not cut out very well right from the start. But it's important to know that things evolve over time.
Correct.
And take shape.
But I mean, I don't know if I would advise that, right? Like if somebody wants to start and they don't know what they exactly want to do.
If they're energetic, if they're not in need of money, if they have the luxury of time and experimentation is something they can afford, why not, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You got it bang on, yeah. Those are the filters, yes.
Yeah. So, cool. Talking a little bit about the industry, as compared to employees who work directly under an organization, where do you think agencies and freelancers fit in?
Okay. So when you're asking me this, you mean how a brand looks at these folks, or how a company looks at these folks?
In the industry, what is their position basically? Are they doing better work than employees sitting in one organization, or are they earning more than employees in many different aspects? In any way, how do you think there's a difference between employees who are designers versus agencies and freelancers who are designers?
Right. Well, I think there is no standard answer for this, right?
Okay.
Because it really depends on which company you're talking about, which agency you're talking about, which freelancer you're talking about.
Yeah.
The blanket statement I can make is you can be very rich and very successful and very satisfied in all these three places.
Right.
The way it works is, if you are a brand where, let's say, design or tech, I'm assuming we'll talk for design UX UI for now.
Yeah.
If that's the focus. If I'm a product company, I will probably avoid outsourcing. And whenever I outsource, I'll want people to come in for bandwidth, which is helping me with non-core work or chore work. So for a product company, whenever they get an external consultant on, it's only for sporadic times and for bandwidth crunches. So if you are wanting to grow inside a company, become the head of design one day, that track will definitely give you more money, more satisfaction. You'll be able to actually put your head down, right?
And a sense of security.
And a sense of security as well. I mean, compared to a freelancer, definitely it's more stable, right? So that's one aspect. Now, if you're in an agency, when you grow up the ladder, you become a sales guy. You know, designers are salespeople in consulting companies,
Right.
which can be exciting for, like, it's exciting for me. Saying, okay, I'll be able to do that, convert business for my, and I become a revenue resource. All revenue resources will always grow with the company.
Right.
And I personally feel there is nobody which can beat that, right? Which is, you're getting oxygen into the company. They're going to, you'll either grow very fast or you'll get a lot of experience. Agencies also give you cross-domain experience. Literally in 1 year, you may be working in health tech, in fintech, in SaaS, and everything.
Yeah.
But it's also pretty chaotic. And conventionally, agencies don't pay as much as product companies because they're not funded. They are not burning venture capital. It's usually the founder's money. So they don't pay crazy amounts. But I personally feel there's a lot you can learn in an agency. They'll really grind you in the start. So as a young designer, you may want to work in an agency.
Right.
Maybe you want to do definitely some internships.
Right.
Really perfect and get that intuition. Okay, this is how SaaS is. This is what fintech is. This is what edtech is. You'll form a good intuition as to what will work where and what you want to do. And then you can double down in that career. Coming to freelancing, I think it's not easy. Freelancing is like being an entrepreneur. Why do freelancers do what they do? Is because they prioritize control over stability. Because there are two kinds of people. People who want stability, but they may be okay to give away control. And then there are people who essentially, want control over anything. I want to work from where I want to work. I want to charge. I want to work with who I want to. It's completely up to you. So it's that breed of people which become independent, right? I'm somebody like that. I usually like to be in an environment where I don't get stressed, and I don't get stressed only when I have control.
Okay.
Only when somebody's telling me I have to do this and I'm like, I don't want to. No, you have to do it. That brings stress in me. So I don't like to be that person.
Right.
I like to be in a place where, okay, I made a mistake. Maybe I'm not making that much money, but I'm controlling my outcome. So that feels more secure in my head mentally than financially. So yeah, I hope that gives you a good idea there. When it comes to, I think, freelancers, it depends, right? What happens with a salaried employee is you are in a increment, bonus, year on year kind of a path.
Yeah.
As a consultant, like I have seen on my own platform, people, let's say, making 10 lakh rupees, next year making 30 lakh rupees, making 50. It can even become 5.
Yeah.
But that's usually rare. I don't see good talent in market today, especially in design, drop if they continue to do good work, right? So if you plan well, if you're smart enough, and if you plan your growth, it's totally doable.
So for a freelancer or an agency, maybe you can answer this separately. How do they start fetching projects? Suppose they're starting from ground up today. What is their strategy supposed to be to fetch projects?
Well, I think first and foremost, you need a portfolio. I think
it's like a chicken and egg issue. How do we solve for that?
See, I'll tell you, I think designers have a very big advantage, which most people don't, which is I can sit here and take the next 10 hours to build out my own app. I don't need any other dependency.
Yeah.
I know people may not like it, but if I make it generally like really good, and if I tell them, hey, I'm new, I do have experience, I have studied this, or I have this knowledge, I can prove myself that, hey, these are my design decisions, and I can prove my merit. Yeah. It's all about showing and telling. So that's an advantage we have.
More than you're saying also that more than whether my solution is correct or wrong, or it's more of the process I took to come to a solution.
Yeah.
Is that process mature enough? Is that process a value add or not for a company?
Absolutely.
If I reflect that in my portfolio, even if it's a dummy project, it has showcased the way I think, and that might be interesting for a potential employer or a company.
Definitely. Right. It won't have as much value as a real-time project.
Yeah.
But you ask me that I have nothing. So then it's better than nothing.
Yes, correct.
Because, I believe a portfolio really helps you understand, how you want to kind of position yourself, how people will look at you. So working there, it's very nice. I think Jeff Bezos or maybe Amazon, I don't know who, probably Amazon has the process where when they ship out a feature, they make a PR article before sitting in that room for the PRD, saying, what do you want the customers to think like when they're looking at the PR article in the newspaper publication? That, they launched this is this. Then they work backwards from there.
Okay.
So that it's something like, it's similar for me, where I'll first make my work, I'll gather my work, I'll put something, then I'll be like, okay, what do I really want to be, and where do I want to focus on? So yeah, portfolio is like, I think, very, very important. After you have a portfolio, I think it's really about, and when I say portfolio, I think it also is the usual thing, like find a niche. Sometimes you can't find a niche. I usually make 3 portfolios then, I'll make an animation portfolio, a uiux portfolio, and maybe a video portfolio, whatever, research portfolio, yeah. And I'll start going to companies after that. Don't be a person who does everything. It has very less value in the marketplace. You seem confused. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way because what happens is, a portfolio basically is a device today to help you convert to an interview.
Correct.
Or to a meeting. So to convert to a meeting, if you are cluttered, that'll be a challenge. But weirdly, when you meet somebody and you're like, I do multiple things, they'll actually like that. So it's a dilemma which a lot of people do.
I think people like the fact that you do a lot of things, but will they really use all your skills or all your domains?
Correct.
Probably not.
Correct.
So when it comes to practicality of whether you're the right candidate or whether somebody else who's worked in their niche, their domain, their subject, and deeper than you, they'll probably choose him.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. I think it's all about risk, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you're hiring somebody, it's a risk.
Yeah.
So you want to cut risk. You don't want to be somebody who's hired the wrong person.
Yes.
So the only way to do that is by doing match the following. So then if it doesn't work out, your boss who hired you can go and tell their boss that, hey, see, this is the profile. It fits everything. So I did my best.
Yeah.
So that's why expertise and matching, your portfolio to the job also really, really helps.
Right. So I keep when I built a team, the philosophy, I don't know how successful that can be over time, but my thought process was every designer in the team should have knowledge in every subdomain of design, but everyone should have their own personal choice of in-depth subdomain.
Right.
So you should know what is research, you should know what is UI design, visual design, you should know what is animation, everything. You should be able to do it as well, hands-on. But you should have a core area of expertise that you're really good at.
Yeah.
Among all of them.
Right.
So at least that will give you a sense of, when I do research, how will a UI designer benefit from that? At least you'll be able to connect the dots. So it's yet to be tested in the long run, but yeah.
Got it. Just to kind of complete, so I think just making your portfolio will not help you start your business, right?
Yeah.
So once you do that, I think you need to arm yourself up with some branding. Get a website up, get a name up.
Yeah.
I usually recommend people, if they're wanting to ever transition from being a freelancer to a company, then you should start only your freelance business with a brand name.
Yeah.
Because I mean there are examples like Ogilvy and Leo Burnett, but these days I don't really see people joining a Kavan Antani studios. If you have a name,
Correct.
It'll be easier to attract talent, maintain talent. It won't be a little odd. Otherwise, it'll become like a law firm, so it may be odd. After that, you need to arm yourself up with some sales, and just be patient, right? What happens is I've seen people write to 5 people and they don't get a reply, and they're like, "Nahi ho raha hai mere se." When I started IndieFolio with my co-founder Shashank, we used to write 100 messages every day for 1 year to designers to join our platform and to companies to post on our platform. And that's how we got 8,000 people in a year to come to it. But after sending 200 messages each for the entire year, so you can do the math, it's a lot of
Yes.
things, So you just need to aim for a 5% conversion rate. Then you should be good. And lastly, start creating content. It's got a lot of power, I feel, and very few people leverage it. So Naval Ravikant has a very interesting thing he says about this media and tech thing, where if you want leverage in the world, you have capital and you've got labor which you can leverage. But now you've got media and tech. Why? Because media and tech has the potential to go viral. So with 1 unit of your input, it can give you an exponential outcome. Where if you make a viral video or you make a series which just blows up, it can really help you get more attention. So I would really encourage, designers to do that. And I only see very few designers doing that in the market today in India. You guys know how to make videos, how to do good design, how to make good thumbnails, how to take attention of a user.
Absolutely.
But people are not really comfortable, I guess, switching on the camera and talking.
Yeah.
But I think if they start doing that, it'll really help them
I
get
think this is
attention.
part of one of the things that I was discussing with my previous guest, which was about how to sell as a designer. I think this is one of those things, right? So you need to know how to market
Yeah.
yourself. You need to know how to sell yourself.
Yeah. I mean, if you aren't somebody who's comfortable or is not willing to go out of the comfort zone to talk to random people and literally, मैं तो बोलता हूँ भीख मांगनी पड़ती है. You know, with very very proudly I say that. I'm a Gujarati. ऐसे ही काम आता है. You have to put all your ego down. You can't have attitude. You have to understand you're new. You're going 0 to 1. You must go to as many people as possible and open as many doors as possible and have as many chats as possible. You never know what's going to happen.
Right.
You know. So if you're uncomfortable with that, it's going to be challenging for you to succeed. Unless, of course, you're somebody experienced, you've got a lot of contacts, and you'll make few fine four, 5 phone calls. You'll get some work. Then that's a different game altogether.
Yeah.
But usually, most people don't enter that.
Most artists I've seen and designers, they're pretty emotional. So they get affected very easily.
Yeah.
They feel insult very easily.
Yeah.
And all that.
Creative people value their work and self-worth as the same.
Correct.
So मेरा काम खराब है मतलब मैं भी खराब. And I think that's not the right way to think.
Right. Very well said. If you don't have time to build a portfolio, don't build it. That is the kind of message that propagates on LinkedIn. People also specifically mention that I don't have time to create a portfolio. Do an interview, 1 hour of my time for you or 2 hours of my time for your interview. You can ask me any question, any whiteboarding exercise. I'm ready to do it for you and prove my worth. Why should I have a portfolio? My resume is enough. My experience mentioned in my resume is sufficient enough, along with my whiteboarding challenge or whatever it is that you do in the interview. Why should I do a portfolio? All these thoughts, what do you feel about them?
I think I respect that, but I disagree with it. My point of view is that I'll tell you what I disagree with. I disagree with the fact that you're telling people not to do it. I think whoever I know, okay, let's say there are 2 people, very successful, 10-year experience, great company, has a lot of work under their belt and successes. I can guarantee you the person with a portfolio will have more options.
Absolutely.
They'll get more people knocking their door, more people approaching them. Because your portfolio is working for you when you're sleeping, man. Yeah. It's getting eyeballs. It's selling you when you're not around.
Yeah.
Every time you'll do an interview for 2 hours. So I think if you want more options before you decide what to do next, have a portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because otherwise, it's going to be referral based. It's going to be people who are really serious who are going to check you out and hire you. Maybe that's okay. But I just feel you may be missing out on some cool opportunity. I know a lot of clients and serious clients, big clients. They don't even enter a conversation with a designer, even if they are like your experience, without having a portfolio. They're like, "Kaam to dekhna padega, boss." Yeah. Lastly, I think if you're applying as a manager or somebody who's looking at KPIs and KRAs and budgets and P&L, maybe your portfolio may not matter that much. I'll give it that.
Again, I would say your portfolio doesn't matter if it's a visual design portfolio or a UX portfolio, but you could still have a leadership portfolio that talks about what impact you did for every project you worked on.
Absolutely.
What was your responsibility? What were the challenges you saw?
Absolutely.
And how did you solve for it? That'll always help. So
Absolutely.
I'm also under the same belief that portfolio makes a big impact. Like that is an additional opportunity for you to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Do you think freelancers have the luxury to say that they don't have a portfolio as compared to employees?
Absolutely not. They have no choice. Like freelancer to dukaan hoti hai na. It's like you're shopping. And the advice I gave, of having one thing only doesn't work for freelancing at scale. Like if you're a freelancer who's making good money and they want to grow their revenues, or if you're an agency which makes money and they want to grow their revenues, sab dikhao. You have to have a portfolio with every goddamn thing.
Yeah.
Brands would outsource to that more easily.
Yeah.
Is what I've seen. But if you're doing full time, then the thought changes, as we just discussed earlier on. So 100% without a portfolio, it'll be very difficult, almost impossible for you to succeed.
Yeah. Do you see other peculiar or distinct differences of between the mindsets of employees versus freelancers, especially in design?
Yeah, I think I mainly covered the biggest point, which was the control versus stability thing. And I think everything stems from there, yeah. I've seen people who want to build a business, build an agency, go into that path.
Right.
I've seen people who want to do their art, want their craft to be with them, also do freelance.
Yeah.
Uh, it's the people, I think, in the professional world who I think want to do more impact via scale. They actually go towards the full-time route, because if you are in a Swiggy, Zomato, Google, Adobe, you're making an impact. Your design is going to a lot of people. I wouldn't necessarily say that about freelancers and agencies. Any which ways, it's rare that, like I said, core work will go to them. If it does go to them, then it's not the core work of that company, according to me.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
or they are doing something in a different angle. So I don't know if I answered your question very well, but I think for me that's the main differentiator between those two.
Right. The stakeholders or the clients or the customers that you work for as an agency or a freelancer, they're often non-design guys,
Mostly
right? So
Mostly.
it's either a CTO or a CEO or a
CPO,
yeah,
CMO.
or some senior manager or
Yeah.
product manager,
Yeah.
somebody like
Yeah.
who's probably never designed anything from a proper design
Yeah.
standpoint. So when you're an agency or a freelancer who's trying to strike a chord with them and you're trying to prove a point to them, how do you stand out? What are those key things that you need to have as part of your narrative to say that, you should hire me?
Correct.
And you should keep your personal subjective opinions about my designs aside and look at it objectively as to how my designs have impacted or whatever.
Right.
Of course, I'm asking this from a standpoint of somebody who may not have numbers to show, but they have a lot of processes to show and they have a lot of visual design outputs to show.
Right. You have to talk that person's language. So even if you don't have a metric, if you are hiring, if you are working with a client who wants to, let's say, build a landing page to optimize, sales for their Shopify store or something like that, talk that language, right? When you're explaining, say how you worked on this particular thing to increase more sales, that'll make sense to them. Look at showcasing category match. So if you are in the e-commerce domain, I should have an e-commerce domain project or intelligence in the e-commerce domain to talk about. If my customer is a 35 to 45-year-old tier 2 mom, I should understand that customer well and I should explain that when I'm talking to that person, saying, oh, isko mere category or customer bhi pata hai. Like, that's very important for anybody to know.
Right.
And lastly, I think what I've observed is you usually need to do exact show and tell. So I've had companies, and I still do, where I see a UX UI guy's great portfolio. They're like, yeah, but fintech SaaS is not there for international enterprise, and I'm like, you want that? But he has done something there.
That was going to be my next question. I'll come to it, but
they'll bigger companies like who have fat budgets, they will not budge. They're like, I need it, and if you don't give it, they may even do a POC because they want to exactly see that particular thing in the portfolio. And I have seen that people who do that, works brilliantly. Like, I have people who do a lot of mock-ups also in certain industries just because they're nice, and they don't do like a redesign and all. They genuinely add value to the existing design. So I worked recently with a company in the subscription domain for consumer products. Some 4 or 5 studios went. A lot of big studios went. Didn't really convert too much compared to that one studio who was actually expensive, who had that particular thing in their portfolio that I have worked in this domain and this is what I did. So that really helps. Even when you look at media or like animation, video, graphic design, if you have done flyers and posters, you'll get the flyer project. If you've done branding, you'll get the branding project.
Of course.
Jo dikhta hai, wohi bikta. It's actually like that.
So clients preferring specific design skills in a specific niche and all that may also come across as some sort of a disadvantage for a lot of agencies and freelancers. That's my take on it. That yes, I might not have worked in food and beverages domain on a specific kind of an app design, but I would do research on every domain or every product that I work on, irrespective of what domain it belongs and irrespective of what country it belongs to. Somebody told me you've not worked for an Australian client, so I am having my hesitation because Australians have a very different way of thinking. Their expectations from an app is different and whatnot. So that's obviously going to be different across.
Yeah.
But as an agency, if somebody told that to me, it would be very difficult for me to convince them. What is my next step supposed to be to convince them that, like, obviously we will do research on our customers because UX design is user experience. User is our forefront,
Yeah.
right? We will anyways do research on the users. But how do we convince these clients or stakeholders to think a little differently? Like, obviously, if you get somebody who is specific to your niche, you will get a good designer, and they will have a lesser chance of screwing up the output. But what about somebody who
Sure.
doesn't have that experience? How do you convince?
Couple of things here. So firstly, realize if this client is worth your time. सबसे पहले.
Okay.
Is it if this converts? Is it a big enough client? Is it a big enough project? If yes, only then do what I'm about to say. Otherwise, just say no.
Okay.
Because this client's being unreasonable. Saying अरे यार सब चाहिए आपको ठीक है नहीं कर सकता मैं. But oh no, you're a big brand. I want to work with you. I know this is good for my company, my agency, or my portfolio. Fine. Let's figure. Then step 2 would be to ask always in such situations, right? When a client is angry with you, my process usually always is, or unhappy with you, is to be like, okay, I'm here, right? Why am I here? What did you like about me? Make them say what you liked about them. Make them only say it. Which you can second, third thing, okay, you like my portfolio, you understand my visual skills are good, my research skills are good, blah, blah, blah. Then if it's a client which you want to, let's say, work with, I recommend going a little bit extra mile. That really helps. Sometimes I've seen people do a POC. Sometimes I've seen people make a research doc or PRD, summed up the next 3 months as to what I'll do exactly and how that Australian will love my app. Prove it to them, right? It doesn't take more than 3 hours, according to me, 5 hours. The document, the POC may take maybe 2 days. If that 3 days of work, 2 days of work unlocks a 1 year retainer or a large project for 6 months, it's worth it. That's what I call as customer acquisition cost for creative people.
Yeah.
That's your CAC. But unfortunately, and I again may get some slack for this, a lot of people just put too much value to their time, I mean, you're somebody who wants a project. No, I don't do free POC, I don't do this, I don't do that. Fine, don't do it. But if the client's poking holes in your portfolio and your expertise, either you give it up or you do this, because they're not going to get convinced otherwise, right? So that's at least what I believe. A lot of folks, in our network also refused to do POCs, refused to go ahead and do sampling. But the ones who did, they are working with these clients right now.
Absolutely.
And it may be a systematic problem. You may not see this happening, let's say, in America as much, but it happens in India. But तुम धंधा तो इंडिया में कर रहे हो ना, you have to understand your customer and your process. So that's at least what I believe. Just 2-3 days of your work may unlock a large client. Just do it.
So that goes back to your first point. Is it worth?
Yeah,
Is the
exactly. It
project
has to be worth it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
And that's why I always believe in, being very, very careful about who I want to work with and make that mental note. This is the category, this is the customer, this is the, ICP, ideal customer profile for me. I'll only work with them. So even if I get some opportunity, I can go all in. I can do my best, and they'll be like, yeah, this guy really wants to work with me. Enthusiasm is something as a metric people don't understand. Like when person is knocking on your door saying, "Humko aapse kaam karna hai," they'd be very excited.
Yeah,
according to me.
but that drilling down and coming to a very sharp conclusion that this is the kind of client I want to work with, isn't that too hard for a beginner agency or a beginner freelancer to do?
Have a hypothesis, fail at it, do the next thing. It's a design process also, right? You have to be iterative. Obviously, nobody knows the truth.
Yeah.
मुझे भी नहीं पता है. I don't know. There may be a bigger ICP for me, but it's working for me now. Tomorrow, if I run out of it, I'll try something else. So you have to set a direction. Otherwise, you're shooting blanks, right? You don't know what you're doing. You have to be like, this is what I want to do. I also tell people to write down a business plan which includes your numbers, metrics, and everything.
Right.
So this should be my revenue. Okay, you want to do 1 crore. How will you make 1 crore this year? So many projects I'll have to do. This is your average pricing. Do that. The whole plan may get squished. Pura khichdi ho sakta hai. But that's good. At least you now know how much deviation you have to do.
Right.
A lot of people just start. If you're at the end of the day, and a designer is not an artist, right? A freelancer is not a designer, an entrepreneur. You have to think like a businessman.
Correct.
Otherwise, you're going to run out of money and it's going to be a big problem for you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. What is your experience of looking at Indian clients versus clients from abroad?
I think the American or let's say foreign clients are in a more established, place.
Okay.
Rather, it's more organized there. They're used to dealing in the creative realm more. They're used to having a bigger risk appetite.
Okay.
So I would say that for them, it's they're very empathetic also. So it's very easy to work with them in a manner that they're not going to call you and nag you on various things. However, they are definitely somebody who really, really prioritizes communication over everything, commitment over everything. You say you are going to deliver by tomorrow 5 p.m. If you don't, they will cancel the project if it happens on the first time. If the first deliverables में first times you don't meet, they're not going to be afraid to just bluntly say bye. I'm not going to work with you. India में कर सकते हो, अरे sorry, give me one more chance. So I think Indians are more accepting for you to make mistakes, but they're annoying because they're very scared. We've not done much of it, and Indians always are in a scarcity mindset. कि यार ये नहीं होगा कल तो, ये खराब हो गया तो कल, because we live in a scarcity mindset generally as a country. So we're very difficult to convert. But once you make a relationship with an Indian client, they'll take care of you. Is what I have seen.
Okay.
They'll definitely be happy. Americans and other folks are great with referrals, though I must say I have not seen that happen as much in India. But they really, really love if you do a good job with them. They'll be happy to open their network to you.
Okay.
Here, पूछना पड़ता है थोड़ा, but they're very good there. So I think that's primary lead, but I must say I've worked with more काफी similar hai. Expectations are pretty much similar. You need to do good work. You need to understand their market, understand the TG, and things like that. I've also have American people ghost me. So have Indian people ghost me as clients. They stop replying after a point in time. They all do that. I think it's nothing like, it's not that different. Plus, I'm luckily used to working with really good operators in India, right? I'm talking about CTOs, CMOs, CPOs of good companies. So I think our corporate culture, especially in a lot of areas, is becoming much, much better than it was before.
What about the understanding or the respect somebody pays for why design is important? Do you see a difference in the mindset of Indian companies versus foreign
Definitely. So that was my first point. Maybe I didn't articulate that well, which is they understand all of this. This is something which they've been doing for a long time. You did say empathize. Empathize, I said, but it's like they already know. Here it's so new, where they don't even understand a lot of times what creative people do.
Right.
They're used to working in this realm quite a bit, and that's why it's a very mature market, and that's why they understand it here. I wouldn't say Indian clients don't understand at all, but yaar, it's not design, yaar. Kisi ki respect nahi idhar to. Like, we don't have an hourly rate, dude. We don't have an hourly rate because we don't value our time by the hour.
Okay.
Nobody does.
Right.
We don't have no clue. There, it's like time is money. They respect that. So they also know. कि आप कर रहे हो काम, I'll give you money. I understand. Because I will pay anybody and I will charge also anybody. Here they'll be like, मैं कर रहा हूँ 10 साल काम free, तो तू क्यों नहीं करेगा? So it's more on that level, right? So that's probably one of the reasons that happens. I don't think there is any malintent. Most people don't have malintent.
Yeah.
It's just they don't know better or they don't value time for anybody.
Yeah, they are part of their own journey where they're trying to achieve something.
Correct.
Fair enough. One of the most asked questions that I've seen is, especially from Indian clients, the moment we start talking about a project, their question is, how much do you charge? How do you deal with that?
Right. So
both as a freelancer and as an agency.
No, it's both only I'm saying. So I think my go-to answer there is pricing is a spectrum. It's like saying how much does a car cost? A car can cost anything, dude. 1 lakh, 10 crores also can cost.
Yeah.
So it depends on what experience you want, what exactly you want. So you need to spend the next few days, hours, minutes with me to explain to me what exactly you're looking out for.
Yeah.
Which is very important. That's what a lot of people don't do well. They'll ask some questions about kab chahiye, kahan chahiye, kaise chahiye, but they don't ask a lot of questions beyond that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a spectrum, remember. Ki I can do this video tomorrow in 1,000 rupees also, or I can do it after 3 months for like 10 lakhs also.
Yeah.
It depends on what you want. So first tell me that. Before you even quote as a freelancer or as an agency, you need to find your cost. Like I said, you're a business now. So what's the cost for Kavan Antani to offer freelance services? First, figure that out, which is all your expenses. Your EMIs, your rent, your laptop. If you bought a new laptop, divide it by like 1,000 days so you'll get like a monthly cost or whatever daily cost. So do that math. So you'll realize that itna paisa to matlab is my bare minimum to survive. Then you should add a profitability on top of it. 1x, 2x, 3x, 5x depends on how good you are and how experienced you are. Saying 10,000 rupees per month is my survival. I'll charge 30k. Maybe I'm a mid-level guy. Maybe I have to charge 1 lakh or whatever. So you'll get your rate mota for a month. Then depending on how much time you give, you can give costs that way. This, however, is starting. If you're starting out, this works. What we do, or I would say rather what a lot of mature teams would do, is one of these two things. One is value-based pricing, and the other thing is you charge as per the budget of the client. So I believe me and our CBO, we're very good at doing research and understanding kitna spend karta hoga already hai company on this particular activity. Usually there's a percentage of their marketing spends, which is usually their creative spend. A percentage of that is their outsourcing spend. Uska something you'll have to navigate within. Is when you'll realize that this guy must be at least spending 5 lakh rupees on this particular item. I must quote around 4 to minimum. Maybe up to 6 also. So that's the one way to go. The second way is value-based pricing. Now this is very evolved. I think Chris Do speaks a lot about that. And a lot of young designers have started doing this. And I'm like, bro, you have to reach that level before you can do value-based pricing, Because you can't say my logo is the reason your company is successful, dude. You can't say that. If you are handling the entire experience design and the brand positioning and the marketing efforts, then probably you could do that. And that's why consulting companies have a habit of doing this, right? Because they take entire control of an entire activity and an experiment. There you can do a value-based pricing. That okay, I did this, from 100 rupees you went to 500 rupees. Oh, 400x ka mujhe 10% ka mujhe de do, uptake. So I still haven't been able to crack that well as IndieFolio still. And I feel it is difficult to do so. Especially because creative and design doesn't necessarily influence sales and growth that much. But if you do, let's say, ad spends, if you're a guy who's doing ad spend optimization, there's a great way to make money on upside. Like I said, if you're doing design and development and you're handling some aspects around the conversion funnel, there is possibility you could do so. However, I would recommend in the start, don't get into this. I think till you're not making a couple of $1 million, you should not do this as an agency. So at least 10-15 crore, 20 crore tak to pahuncho with the first two tactics. Then you can start getting into the bigger picture.
So don't see Chris Do's video yet.
See it. It's always good to hear. And if you can try with an American client, great. But yeah, I mean, you have to understand that Chris Do is talking as a big guy, in his industry.
Of course.
He does some crazy work. He has a lot of experience, and if you are not there yet, then you can't use the same thing. So
yeah, I've seen people quote randomly with these kind of theories in mind, and then when we drill down and say, why do you charge so much, and when we dissect that a bit, then they are like, okay, I'll do it for this also. That's when I've kind of lost faith in that guy. Like, he didn't have a strategy. He randomly quoted some price. And now I, as a client, have lost faith in him because he doesn't know what he's charging.
Right.
And so that means he doesn't know what he's doing, what value he's adding, and so on. So for a client who I don't know much about, how do I come to that conclusion, or how do I get an idea? One of the things you told was work according to the client's budget. How do I figure that out? If because whoever you approach, whatever client you work with, they are going to say my budget is this much, and that is mostly going to be less, at least for freelancers and agencies who are just starting up, and you don't have access to big brands and big companies who are transparent about their budget. The startups or small clients that newbies get are mostly the kind of guys who are not really too big and they're not having too much budget. Even if they have 50,000 budget, they will end up saying, because they know it's an Indian mindset, the haggling always happens, and they're like, okay, my budget is on 50,000, but let me just tell him 10,000 and let him push me to 15,000. Let's settle somewhere there. How do you figure out what is, like, according to the client's budget, does it make sense for a beginner?
Sure. So if you can't get knowledge on the company, you can just throw in a number. And my recommendation always is to you throw the number first
Mm.
and anchor it high.
Mm.
If you want to charge 50K na, charge 1.5 lakhs. Like, kya baat kar raha hai?
Mm.
Pagal hai kya?
Mm.
I to can't afford at all.
Mm.
So what can you afford? Tell me, then. So you can do it for 50K also. I said it's a spectrum. Something I can do for you in 50K. Tell me what do you want.
Mm.
So you got to throw a number. Then if there is no hope.
Mm.
But then even for smaller companies, I mean, you can see who are their employees, how many employees they have, what is their experience level, do they have a designer, do they have a marketing budget, do they have a product budget. See, you'll understand ki salary kitna hai, how much they must be spending. Some variable number you should be able to get in your mind according to me. But if you can't, if you are not, because this is a skill I have built by doing this some 10,000 times probably. I've done it in the last 10 years. I've spoken to so many people. Now I know, okay, kya kiska kitna hoga.
Right.
So if you don't have that practice, throw a number first and throw a high number first. But don't throw it very high. Like, you can't be a just out of college person wanting 5 lakh rupees for one landing page. Like, they'll laugh you out.
Yeah.
That's laughable according to me. So have a rate which is decent enough. And they will then accordingly give you a number once you throw a number at them. Yeah.
The next question has some sort of an intersection with this. There's a lot of fear in freelancers and agencies about losing a client. It can happen for various reasons. One is because I quoted too high and they didn't even say this is not my budget. And then, like you said, they'll say this is not my budget. Then you ask them what is your budget. But a lot of clients say, okay, fine, thank you for letting us know. We'll get back to you. And that's a cue that they're not getting back to you. So that is a fear an agency or a freelancer would have. Similarly, another fear is if I quote too low, then I'm going to slog.
Yeah.
I'm going to work too much for too little. So that is two fears about quoting a price. Once you quote, everything works out. Advance payment is another problem that I see. Okay. So if I ask for an advance payment, the client will get pissed, or like that is a fear that one might have. I need to be big enough to ask for an advance payment, but I don't see anything wrong in a beginner or a freelancer asking for an advance payment.
Not at all.
But it's just all about trust. Like, why would somebody trust you and pay you some money before even you do a work? It's all mixed. How do you overcome these fears as a freelancer or an agency? So
how to overcome the fear? So I think you can't have fear in these conversations. Otherwise, you're already lost. If you have fear कि यार ये नहीं आएगा तो मेरा company खत्म हो जाएगा, तो तुम हार गए हो. You will never get satisfaction, or you'll never get something which you think is right. So forget about that. Like, ये नहीं है, there are 100 other clients. Like, if you think this is the only client which can make or break your freelance business, then that's a wrong mentality to have. So
that's what I want to expose, because a lot of beginners do have that fear. Because they're not comfortable enough to have that confidence that ये नहीं है तो कोई और आएगा. That'll not be there. No.
Correct.
How do you think like that?
How do you think like that? That's an interesting question. I don't know, man. I think I've always been pretty confident. I don't know how to, because I'm always like, yaar, nobody can shut my life down or my company down just because they said one thing. That's why even if somebody shouts at me, I'm like, how fine. So why are you shouting at me? I made a mistake. I mean, we did a bad thing to you, but don't shout at me. Like why are you doing that? So I'm built that way, I guess. I don't know how, but I guess this is the fact, right? Like, the fact of life is nobody or not a single entity can just screw you over, dude. Ever. If it's your spouse, to your parents, to your clients also, beyond a point is your life. You can take control. If you remember, it's only you till you're going to, die at the end of the day. So you can get out of anything as long as you are strong with yourself and confident in yourself.
Yeah, that's the point I'm looking for.
Yeah, okay.
Strength and confidence in yourself.
Yeah, and that strength and confidence comes with a good body of work, passion, enthusiasm, validation that, actually, I'm good at my work. See, then you're like, no, I'm not lying. I'm not wrong. My friends are also charging so much. My colleagues are also charging so much. They're all doing well. Even I can do well. I'm very good in my work. So it's okay. Let this client go. I don't have an issue. Then remaining things you asked, I think you should start by giving like a bunch of constraints together. I want a 50% advance. I want so much money. This is going to be my timeline. This is going to be how I'm A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Sometimes put a lot of things also. It's a negotiation tact. Because then when you decide, getting less money or whatever, they want less money, you can be like, okay, give me a advance for sure then. Okay, you want to pay me 1 lakh, you can't give an advance, it's okay. So, you'll have these constraints you can play around with. Don't just go with a blanket, otherwise there is nothing you have to hold them by. So timeline, advance, payment schedule if it's a long project, are all things which come into a negotiation.
Yeah.
And how you can really control what you want, basically. Did you ask me something else?
Advance.
The advance only. So advance, yeah, I mean, I think, see, according to me, the larger the project and the larger the company, the more tough it is to get an advance. Especially because often what happens is that if you're looking at working with a company for a long time, they have a PO process or a long. If you're looking to work with a big company for a long project, sorry, you'll have a PO process. It takes a long time. You have to get empaneled as a vendor. So that's legitimate.
Yes.
If they're going to empanel you as a vendor and give you a PO, and if they're a public company or a large company, they're not going to run away, dude. You can put that PO online. They'll get more money in PR. They'll lose. With that, so they're going to pay you. But Indian clients do take time. It's a systematic problem which needs to be solved.
Yeah.
Smaller the project, more the reasons for you to charge an advance, boss.
Yeah.
Like if I have a small company who comes and I don't know them and they seem a little shady to me also, saying यार ये लोग भाग नहीं जाएंगे ना, I तो like advance के बारे में बात ही नहीं करूँगा तुम्हारे साथ. नहीं करना ठीक है, मत करो काम. But if it's a large company I really want to work with, I'll be like, no, it's okay. I'm going to do something here. The last point I wanted to make was that, which is, as an agency and as a freelancer, a lot of people now, they don't think right. They think from a project to project basis. ये project अच्छा है, ये project बड़ा है, ये project कम है, blah blah blah. You have to think from a company standpoint. You grow when the account which you onboard spends more on you. So even if it's a small project, like a 10,000 rupee project, but from a large company just wants to test you, go all out. Give the best. They're like, wow, I did this for 10K. Imagine if I give him a lakh.
Yeah.
Then they'll give you 5, they'll give you 10. But remember that it's worth that time.
Yeah.
So whenever we have a large company, we'll be like, we'll do anything for you, tell me. We're okay to do anything for you. The smaller the company, the more constraints we start giving.
Right.
Saying, excuse me, we have to be very careful of putting energy into this account.
Right.
But let's say if I'm working with I have an existing client, Aditya Birla Sun Life Insurance or Air India. We know they have money. We have to prove ourselves to that. And as long as we keep on doing so, they'll keep on giving us more projects and more work. So you have to go all out and full throttle. But very often, I experience this every day. No, I don't want to do this. I usually charge so much. But I'm like, long term, do you want to work with them?
Yeah.
They're just testing you. They're obviously not giving you a large project because you're new. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And it's like not the right way to think according to me.
Yeah, it's also expensive for those companies time-wise to keep finding new guys.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
once
And
they
all
know,
people will give you a pilot or a sample first. That's how it is.
Yeah.
I have some very good people in my network, who have done, like, they do films, literally like 50 lakh rupee films. They have started doing 1,000 rupee plus adapt work for large banks just to prove a point, get access into the company, meet the VP one day saying, काम थोड़ा तो कर ही रहा हूँ. Ask your team what they think about me. They'll say good things and then you can unlock a larger project.
Right.
So they have to be patient also. It takes 6 months, 9 months, 10 months to enter properly into a company. But वो patience लोगों में नहीं है, and that's why they end up doing project to project work, and then after some time they get too tired or they don't have a constant flow of income coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you recommend the mindset of the new freelancers should be, or the agency should be, in terms of doing any kind of work? One of things you have already covered here, but for smaller clients, if a freelancer is working or an agency is working and on both sides there's a lot to prove and both of them are not established, what is the kind of mindset that you think they should have?
I'm not fully sure what you mean. So when you say mindset, you're asking me when I'm building a company, if I want to be successful, how I should think?
No, suppose we look at a small company who is just starting up, they have not established themselves as a big brand. Those are my clients. And I am a newbie who has just started 3 months back and I've started looking for projects and I've got this. So how should I interact with them? How should my portfolio be? How should I convince them? Like, what are the things that they look for in me?
The smaller companies.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think the companies may be small, but the founders may be not. And that's very important. I think I do end up working with a lot of companies doing 0 to 1 who have an incredible founding team, man. Like, they have people with 15 years of experience. And I'm like, I learned so much on this project.
Right.
Just by talking to them. Being a founder, I think founders love working with genuine, enthusiastic people who like their idea, man. And they like, yaar, aap sahi cheez kar rahe ho. Arey, बैठ जा मेरे साथ, you're my best friend. Tell me more. That's a great hack according to me. Is really ask them, what are you doing, why are you doing, how are you different, interview them. They'll be impressed according to me. Founders generally, according to me, don't really have ego beyond, about all these things. They're happy to communicate with you. So that's something you should try and do, which is understand their business. They'll be more than happy to trust you, I guess. The other mindset is like, think of yourself like a VC. If you're partnering with the right person, when they grow, you'll also grow with them.
Right.
So if you really feel that, this founding team is solid, they're probably going to do very well, raise funds, or sell the company, blah blah blah. It definitely seems like somebody I want to work with. So I'll even give them a discount or something, and I'll start working after giving a foot in the door pricing is how it's called. So these are some aspects which you could do. There's a very new model called this fractional CMO, CTO, CDO, which has come up, where you basically act as a leadership person. Like, let's say somebody with your experience, right? You've built teams, you've been in enterprise companies, etc. For a startup to hire you would be expensive, but they can take 4 hours of your time or 10 hours of your time, where you set up the process, you do a few interviews for them, you help them find the freelancer or agency, you vet their work, etc., etc. So that becomes a fractional CBO, CDO, or a fractional head of design. I've seen that to be very popular also. So if you have enough experience, you could enter into a company at a founder level with this role.
Right.
And then they eventually may absorb you full time, or you may go somewhere else.
Right.
So it's more like a consultant, but that's something which also is something you could do for sure. Yeah.
Cool. So we'll touch upon the last topic that I have for the day with you, which is AI. In the world of freelancers and agencies working with clients, do you see a huge impact of AI?
Yeah. It's going to be a good impact according to me.
Okay. Any examples and
वो बोलते हैं ना, कल चाहिए सस्ते में चाहिए, we can finally say yes. According to me. But jokes aside, I think it's going to increase competition for sure, because the barrier to entry is minimal now. Like my wife, she creates content, and I've done like full Premiere Pro 6-month course and all. She edits better than me now on her phone. I forgot the app she uses, and she doesn't have any background in this, right? So barrier to entry has become zero, and that's why there are a lot of people who are doing this. But I'll tell you the good part about that is this layer of cheap work now will go away according to me, because you will just do it yourself. What's better than cheap? Free. So now, as a person who's starting a business, I can just press a few buttons and things will get ready, or say a few things and things will get ready. So the low end work, which is what pulls down the entire rate of the market, will go into automation according to me. What's next is you have to become the best at using AI as a creative person. Think of it like, if you were to give I don't know, Martin Scorsese access to an AI tool versus me, who's not a filmmaker, who will make a better film? Obviously him, because the core of building a beautiful, delightful experience, building an effective, useful experience, still will not go away. It'll never go away. You will just be able to do things faster and quicker, according to me. So that's going to be very impactful. I also feel that rate cards are going to get some change. I don't know how yet, but the hypothesis is that AI will make things cheaper and faster. So our TAT and the cost rate which we offer today, they will need to have some evolution. And it may seem like, oh my God, that sounds bad. We'll have to embrace that according to me. If like we do a lot of adaptations for brands, generally 600,000 to 1,000 per month. Takes 5 resources, 10, sometimes 20 people are onboarded into one company just doing adaptations. That'll completely be changed, by 3 people doing it probably. So can I charge less? I can actually, because I'm putting less manpower on it. So I may still be able to make my profit or say money. But the nuances of that, I'm still not sure. But there is definitely going to be a change in that, because your time to deliver or to create is going away. That's at least what I think. Yeah.
Right. So I just recollected another question I want to ask about pricing.
Achha.
The hourly rate, does that make sense for a freelancer to set for himself or herself, or for an agency to set that we work on content writing on an hourly basis? Does that make sense?
It makes sense according to me, but there will be less takers for you in India. I really want to do this, honestly speaking.
But don't you think writing content for healthcare is a different effort as compared to writing content for tech?
100%.
and both are content writing.
Yeah.
How can I fix a price for both in a common bucket?
Right. Right. I absolutely agree with you. I just think that the adoption also has to be there from the customer, right?
Yeah.
We've tried to do hourly. It's been very difficult. So you either are so good that they will bend for you,
Hmm.
or you'll have to go ahead and change and tweak things at your level.
Hmm.
The biggest issue, which people have with hourly in India is that they don't firstly understand it. Like, yes, matlab, you're working, so I'll pay you by the hour.
Hmm.
What if you take too long?
Yeah.
What if you take too long? And that's why it's something they don't digest.
Yeah.
So we have to explain that to them. But my recommendation is that if you're doing hourly, go and attract foreign clients, because they will ask you an hourly rate only. They're not even going to, very rarely they'll be like, give me a project
But
cost.
how do they judge this difference that I'm talking about?
Mhm.
Like, I do UI design.
Okay.
And a UI design for a gaming, app is very different from a UI design for a corporate banking and finance app.
Yeah. Yeah.
My effort is very different.
But effort is into time only, no?
Not necessarily. My thinking, my quality of work. See, what happens is, if I spend 1 hour writing content, it may be a different level of involvement that I have versus 1 hour of designing UI. So how can I charge per hour? That is what I'm trying
Oh,
to
I see what you mean. See, there are always barriers to entry into a field.
Yeah.
Like writing is the lowest end. सब लिख सकते हैं. Coding बहुत कम लोग कर सकते हैं. Machine learning बहुत कम लोग. So that if your barrier to entry is high, your base rate only starts at a higher level. But then it has to be something about time. So yes, your base rate of content has to be lower than UI, which has to be lower than probably UX and research. But then you have to have a time-based approach where, let's say I'm a UX guy and I'm doing A and B. If B takes more time, I should charge it more. If they take the same time, I should charge the same. I think that's ethical also, because you think of it, you can put a value to your skills from a barrier to entry point.
Correct.
But beyond a point, you can't say that, hey, I'm thinking more and I'm thinking hard, so I'll charge more. They'll not appreciate that, according to me. Yeah.
So it's not my hourly rate, it's my hourly rate for content versus my hourly rate for UI design.
Absolutely.
Like that.
Because it's also the value of work. Na article thoughts of ChatGPT bana raha hai. Who's doing UX, or who's doing a video for you? So that's tough to create any which way. So that's why your cost can be higher there.
Okay. The last question I have is some sort of comfort if people are seeking from you based on your experience of seeing companies, agencies, clients, freelancers and everyone. In this community, what would you say to people like freelancers and agencies who are really worried about how they'll fetch their projects? Are they really going to survive for the next 5 years if they start an agency now? Are they going to survive for next 10 years if they start freelancing, or should they switch to employment? For specifically freelancers and agencies, what is your comforting words for sustainability?
Right. I think if you're looking at having a great life and you're sad and you want to be satisfied, having equity in something which compounds year on year, which you have control over, is very satisfying. Trust me, as somebody who's been running a company for 10 years, it's very difficult, man. I work a lot, but I still don't get stressed out, like I said earlier on. And that's very valuable. I think that really comes out as an agency owner or as a freelancer. You should not be impatient entering into any of this, right? Because a lot of mistakes I see people make is they have bad work here, or they have average work, and they enter into the market. That's very risky, because if you got average work, the competition is cutthroat. Everybody in India is so good today. Like, I have such good talent in my network. It's insane. So it's becoming challenging. Also, with AI coming in, low-end jobs are going to go away. So it's going to be the high-end jobs you'll have to really kill at. And like I said, barrier to entry also will be lower. So even anybody could become a freelancer tomorrow and start doing things. So it's going to be competitive. It's going to have a high bar of excellence. But even a full-time job has that. So do you want to be someone who wants control or stability? That's the trade-off you really need to understand, is what you want to do, right? Like there's how they say there's a gene of entrepreneurs. There's also a gene of freelancers. So that's what you need to really identify. Are you that person or not? And a good way to do that is, parallelly start something off, right? If a company allows it, do some side projects. See if that interaction really helps you out, because people forget that creative and design entrepreneurship में ना वो चला जाता है. Like after 5 years, you don't design anymore. You'll be managing team, you'll be managing P&L, you'll be doing sales. You will not be really designing, because if you are sitting and designing as the CEO and or the creative director or the owner or the managing partner is the cool word for design firms. You're doing a bad job, right? If you're sitting and doing that, because you're the MD, you do a lot of things beyond that. So that's, I think, one thing. But yeah, I believe I don't remember the exact number, so don't quote me on it, but what 6% or 5% is the digitization penetration which has happened. That's it. Like imagine everything around you is going to go digital. It's going to go into meta one day. There's so much needs to be done that creative people have never been like more in demand.
Right.
Today you want to be successful, you need somebody for good content. If you want to differentiate your experience, you need design. You know, the way to get attention is creative. It's the difference of your creative. So and good products. So you know, I think we've never been more in demand. I think the next wave is not going to be these lawyers, financial people, and because that's literally getting automated in front of our eyes. It is going to be creative people who actually decide what's the new set of experiences you can create to get attention of somebody. So it's a great time to be there. It's just where you want to do it is completely up to you. I can tell you, you know, I've had people without saying names, they were making 6 lakh rupees, 8 lakh rupees as designers with 4 years experience, something like that. They joined IndieFolio. Just that same person, he's hired 6 more people, and their company did 45 lakhs on our platform. So he must have had more
In
projects.
a span of
1 year. I'm talking yearly, right? So 6 has become 45 lakhs, and he also has a 5-6 member team now and an office. So that's one. I have a team who's making over 1 crore on our platform, you know, in UXui actually. So we've paid over 30-40 crores to freelancers and teams just in the last 2-3 years, and that's a small number according to me, because I've only paid less than like 2,000 people, probably 1,000 people. There are so many people out there. So imagine kitna kaam ho raha hai. And I've barely cracked 200 accounts, 200 companies. There are some, I think 10,000 companies in India which make more than 500 crores. So you can understand the market is huge. And then there's the entire conversation on we being the next destination for UX outsourcing. You know, Accenture, Deloitte, Cognizant, Capgemini's biggest UX UI delivery centers are in India now. So the whole world is coming to us also for creative outsourcing. So I mean, there's insane opportunity. I've been doing this for 10 years and I'm at it. So that should say something also. That I'm very bullish on this particular market and what's going to happen here.
Hopefully we've ended this on a very comforting note for fellow freelancers and agencies. So Kavan, thank you so much for making it. I hope to do more conversations with you like this whenever you're back in Bangalore. Thanks for agreeing to doing this.
For sure, and thanks for having me. I think I had a great chat. Very nice questions. You know, I usually get a lot of usuals. So it was nice to actually have an open-ended chat. And good luck to you, and I'm excited to see who you bring next.
Thank you so much.
I really hope the experiential learning Kavan presented to us was informative, useful, and has motivated you to be more confident than ever on your freelancing or agency journey. I will be bringing more such candid conversations around design in this podcast series. Let me know about your journey of freelancing or agency in the comment section. Suggest potential guests to my podcast and I'll try to get them on board. Like and share this video, it helps grow the channel. Subscribe to the channel for more such informative conversations, videos, and tips around design. As always, thanks for watching, stay creative, and see you in the next one.